This morning, I guess I'm in for a big treat. One way or another, I'm in for a big treat. We have a snowstorm coming our way, due here by lunchtime. Lucky us. How lucky can we be? So it's funny, this winter we had a snowstorm that wasn't never supposed to be here, and then they predicted a big snowstorm that never showed up. Terrific. But today is different. We're going to wait out the storm. But how wonderful that we did all our sequencing. Sequencing has really worked well for us this year. And yesterday we got all our clear sprayed. And oh, I forgot to say, look over there. The wheel and Luciano's stuff are drying up. Let me go check it out. I'm like a farmer harvesting the corn after planting the seeds yesterday. I get up in the morning and the corn is growing. Oh, that wheel looks so good. Woo! That's definitely worth all the work that we put into it. The cafe racer looks great. The paint just couldn't be any nicer. And the Yamaha emblems came out nice. Even the gas cap came out nice. So, yesterday was so successful. I don't know what today's going to bring because, again, it's all related to the weather. But we still have the forks to work on. We still have a side of the frame to polish and exhaust to paint. See how easy it is to get in at the exhaust system here when the front wheel isn't on the bike. So we don't want to get, as I'm taking this apart, as I'm putting it back together, I don't want to get the horse in front of the cart. A good example is I don't want to put the fender and the wheel on and then try to paint the exhaust. I want to paint the exhaust while I have it in this position. And that's why I try every day to encourage people to sequence if they're doing this. Friends of mine that are pulling bikes apart and putting them back together, sequence the workout, even if you have to make like a hit list. Don't hook up the toilet until the plumbing is in place. I don't know. Not funny, I guess, but boy, I love the way the wheel came out. And I know you can't see it on a cell phone, but the wheel is just really, that is really going to be, when that's on the front of that bike, wow, I think it's going to be spectacular. And see, a big part of any restoration is you've got to figure out what you want to do, and then sequence it how you want to do it, and then of course the easy part, doing it. So now the paint's been drying overnight, the wheel's been drying overnight, the trick is going to be to bring everything down in the cellar where it's nice and warm and figure out what we can do if and when it snows today. This should be a very interesting day. This morning I wanted to start off before we get down and work in the shop. I had stumbled upon this old video and it's been converted from flip videos. This is when I first got the first of the Canon cameras. It's so funny because I'm just using a new Canon camera now, but this is a bike you don't see. It's in the garage behind the Suzuki. We used it. I got it from Luciano and he did a lot of work on it for me. We used it as a track bike 2 or 3 years. And then I got the other Ninja because I liked this one for the track so much. I wanted one for the street. And so I wound up having 2 of these. And I've wound up using this to, I took the parts from both this one and the one I bought in Patterson and made what is now the green bike that you see on all these videos. And the rest of the spare parts all went back onto this bike, which is still a track bike. Anyway, except we're not doing track days, at least right now. So it just sits there kind of lonesome. Anyway, nostalgic video. This very nostalgic. And a lot of parts on this bike went on to be parts of the green bike. So, and again, I got this bike from Luciano, and thank you, Luciano. This has been one of the bikes I've truly enjoyed. Great old footage. Anyway, that was some really cool nostalgic footage, and you never see that bike on the videos anymore, but I still have it, of course. And it's still obviously a really fun track bike. Now, I've got these parts ready for whatever the next step of this is going to be. And I don't know yet until this paint hardens up and I decide if we're going to buff it out or not. We have a choice. but it really is pretty good without buffing it out. So we're going to see what Luciano wants to do about that. We got the fork legs to polish, and we may do some of that today, but that's more than a one-day job. But this paint really blew my mind. How we were so... See, sequencing is combined with good luck. And you never know how much of it is good luck and how much is good sequencing. But to have this paint all done, sitting in the cellar by a heating vent while we're waiting for a snowstorm, that's a combination of good luck and good sequencing. Now, a funny story I thought I'd share. When we were, and many years ago, we were into drag racing, motorcycles, and for a short amount of time too. And one of the things there would always be, at that point in time, there was always an argument, what's better, a long stroke engine or a big bore engine? And of course, in drag racing, what's best is a big bore, big stroke engine. So that's the same with sequencing. It's good to be lucky, and it's good to have good sequencing. But if you have both, you're really way ahead of the game. And I think yesterday we had both. So I also wanted to mention something. Now, there's been times, and I've been painting for way over 50 years. There's always been times that I've taken things, I've always let stuff dry out in the garage overnight. I don't bring the outgassing into the house. It stinks, that's number one, and it's probably not healthy, number two. But here's the whole point. With 12 or 14 hours or whatever it's been out there, it's kind of dry. It's dry to the touch, you can touch it. But it's not really dry, it's soft. So if at this point in time you get ants in your pants and you start wanting to sand it and buff it, you make yourself, it'll buff, but you make yourself a lot of extra work. If I let it dry another day or two under a heating vent, what's going to happen is the paint gets harder, physically harder. It takes the sanding better and it takes the buffing better. And we have that really good high-tech stuff. Now I don't know, again, I don't know if Luciano wants to buff it, but we certainly would do it if he wants it. But I was happy the way the little emblems came out, and the gas cap, of course. And the wheel, I have to really, as many times as I've looked at this wheel, I really can't believe how nice it came out. It really was. And again, that was not only a question of good sequencing, but lucky on my part that Karen brought to my attention that the gold wheels in the yellow were not going to be as good as the black wheels in the yellow, and so far everybody, pretty much everybody, has agreed with that. And so I guess my point ultimately is it's good to be good, it's good to be lucky, and it's good to have good sequencing. And we're trying to have all of the above and pass on whatever we can pass on how to have it in your life too. So while I'm waiting for the snow to come, I thought one of the things I do is a preliminary check. I just want to make sure that the holes that hold the fender on are exactly for this fork. This fork is in a 92, but supposedly 91, 92, 93 are the same, but you never know if they moved something or if they changed the fender. So I wanted to check that as the number one thing, and that looks like, unless it's not my lucky day, that looks like that's going to fit just fine. I already took these out to the garage and looked to see that all of these, for the calipers and everything, look like they line up. But before I do a lot of work on this, I really want to make sure I can use this. So for the first step of this, I'm going to take some 2500 grit paper and some ordinary WD-40, and I want to get rid of some of this surface rust. Now, there's really no or very little surface rust up here. When you have a part that's moving like this, it's okay if there's a tiny canyon, but they can't be a mountaintop. The mountaintop will chew up the seal. So what I wanted to do, just for my own satisfaction here, and I want to do a little test to see how quick that surface rust is going to come off. See, in other words, when a seal goes over, if there's a little imperfection low, it's not as bad, anywhere near as bad as if you have a rust that's on top. So the idea is, and this is just step one, just to see if this is going to do what I want it to do, because you never know how bad this is. Now, a great tip, if you're going to put a motorcycle away, like I have put, just showing the Ninja track bike, I have put that track bike away, I put WD-40 or some automatic transmission fluid wherever I think it might rust. So if I don't use it for a couple of years, and it's been sitting there for a couple of years since we've done track days, 2 years in fact, and I look at it, and if I wipe that off, the rust comes right off. Any rust that's on there, you really shouldn't even have any, but if there is some surface rust, it'll come right off. Now it looks like, and I'm just doing this as delicately as I possibly can, this is step one. I want to get all the heavy stuff off. And it seems like this is a little time consuming, because it is. So let me get this and just show this. The 2500 sandpaper loosens up most of the rough stuff. Let me show that up close. Now I want to do this without a camera cut too. And I want to see, this new camera has a much better macro lens. The macro lens is what it focuses up here close. So you can see we've gotten most of, and a way you can tell if you've got all the surface rust off, feel it. Now I feel right there a mountaintop. I'll call it a mountaintop. So if I feel a little mountaintop, now one thing you don't want to do is take 80 grit sandpaper and do this. You want to take something like 2500, or if you have 3000, and you want to use oil, not water, because we don't want this to come back, of course. Now this is step one. I'm going to show step two in 1 second. This is always, do this as the first thing, and you'll always be glad you did. That's gotten rid of, if I run my hand here now, it's perfect. Here again, I want to show this up close if I possibly can, and just forgive the fact that I don't have this on a tripod right now. Got some WD-40 in there. And this new camera, by the way, is really nice. It's much better on close-up, so that's a big help too. So I want to get as much off of the surface as I can before I go to step two. I don't want to be able to feel, any mountaintops. And this will get rid of a giant amount of it. And again, it is 2500 sandpaper. Now, of course, if you have a vise, it's just easier for me to do this in here if I'm going to shoot video. But when I'm done with this, I'll go to the vise and do this. Put this part right here in a vise. You obviously don't put the fork leg in a vise. So anyway, what I'm doing, I got some WD-40 on here. I'm trying to put just a little bit of pressure on this. And this is going to take a little time, so I'm just going to go gently, gently. I can see that the oil is already doing rust color, getting rust colored. And the part that actually moves, the part that really matters on this is really cosmetic, because the part that moves on this doesn't have any rust on it at all. The reason is probably it had a very tiny coating of oil, microscopic coating of oil, while this bike was in storage, or while it was sitting in a junkyard, or on an alien spacecraft, or whatever. But anyway, that does get rid of another small amount. And we'll take a look on the macro lens. That came out pretty nice. Now, one of the seals has a little nick in it. It's the other one. This one is okay. The dust seal really isn't doing anything. It's more for this purpose. It's more cosmetic. We're not going to ride in any dust storms or use it as a dirt bike or anything. But this part here, which is cosmetic, this part here, I've really, with a glove and without a glove, looked for anything that's like an imperfection in that, and gotten that totally nice using the 2500 and the WD-40. So we're at that point. Now we can move on to the next step. Now normally I would be doing this, of course, out by the way, this is, any kind of compound is fine. You don't really need that much. I don't want any of this to get up into the fork legs, of course. It's really kind of common sense here. Now, the two things, I could take a piece of this microfiber, ordinary microfiber, and we always have sacrificial microfibers, of which now this is going to be one, to make make a tool for polishing. Now the first thing is, I realize I'm very realistic about how long it takes to do things like this. I don't want to rush through this. I want every step of this, and I'll try to share every step on the video. If this were in a vise, it would be better, but I'm just trying to show how this would work. Even if you do it this way, now I can press this up against the mirror here, up against my generous belly. But if you have a vise, of course, that makes it easier. And this one, I'll go right up to the top, because I'll make sure I don't leave any compound on there. But again, if I feel any little, what I'm looking to get rid of most of all is mountaintops. Mountaintops are the thing that's going to be a killer. Now, you always, believe it or not, your fingers are more sensitive with a rubber glove. You can find little mistakes. There's one right there. So if I find one, I can, and if I have to go back, repeat these steps over and over again, it won't really matter. Yep. So now if I see that's a really rougher than I thought it was, a little bit of oil on the 2500. And the idea at the end of this is to have any defects that are here, if they're little canyons, there's nothing I can do about that. But no mountaintops. Mountaintops eat seals. Sounds like a Disney movie. Anyway, the shoe shine method. Of course, we'll flip it over and do the other side. But if you see how this is done, you could actually do most of this when if it's on the motorcycle. You don't even have to take it apart. And when we're done with this, I want that to be just absolutely a perfectly smooth, no defects, anything I can do to make that smooth. So I wanted to show this. This is pretty funny. It happens sometimes. We have a drill that we've used probably a year, I'm not sure. We get ready to go. I want to do my little polish on that part, and it's dead. Well, if you just bought a really expensive drill, you'd be looking to put brushes in it, or in some cases the bearing wears out. This one doesn't even have a bad bearing yet. But keep in mind, these tools really get used. This is not like a show, one of these show garages, NASCAR garages. This is a we get it done garage. So this is the fix. This is how you fix a Harbor Freight drill. I wanted to show. It's a really easy thing. You reach in your pocket, you reach in a drawer. And because the last time I had coupons for 25% off, I wound up getting these, I think, for 12 bucks a piece. So I bought 3 of them. Well, on a day like today, it's good to be a Harbor Freight customer. Anyway, I wanted to polish this just a little bit. Now I forgot to mention one other thing. When this is kind of important, if you're doing this, you really are only polishing this top. So you really have to go like that, polish it, turn it, polish it, turn it, polish it. Because when you do the shoe shine method, you're really only picking up the top maybe from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So you need to do it in 5 or 6 different ways. And the thing is, you can go back and forth with the compound anytime you feel something. And at the very end, I like to just put a little bit of that Meguiar's polishing compound. Get this off on my own here. And actually, that actually came out pretty good. So that's one down. Now I'm going to do this in steps. I'm going to do this to the other fork leg. That'll take about a half hour, an hour. I'm going to have a big cup of coffee and then come back to this. All right, it's time for another coffee break. More coffee, more work. More coffee, more work. And so far, no snow. That's a good combination. Now, as I'm looking at this one has way more corrosion on this side, but this is the side that's away from what you see, and since most of this is cosmetic anyway, and it's got the bad seal, we'll put the bad seal, the part of it that's chewed up toward the back. This one worked out perfect. But again, I'm going to repeat this off camera, the same thing I just did to the other one. I want to have each step one side for each. I don't want to get way ahead on one leg. Now it's nice that this one cleaned up even better than the first one, but I want to put a final polish on everything. That actually worked out better than I thought it would. That was easy. Yeah, they both polished up nice. There's nothing, absolutely nothing on, and where this is actually going to matter, and the cosmetic part of it down here, I think we got it as good as the top part. A little bit of elbow grease is all it takes in about 2 hours. Next part of this, and I don't know what the resolve on this is going to be, but I know I want to start with backing out the suspension system to this full softest, and it looks like this suspension has never even been adjusted, because the part of it, I'll show this, that when you take this out, it's not even, it looks like brand new metal. But again, I know there are a lot of guys buy a sport bike and just drive out of the dealer and never adjust it. Or they never do track days, or they never, you know, everybody has their own unique enjoyment of motorcycles, and one is certainly not better than the other. But in this case, as I back this out, because I want to polish this, that's number one. So I want to start with a cleanup and a polish. I want to back that out. Now that would be the softest setting possible. Let me show something. So it's like forensics, because this part in here, it doesn't look like it's ever been exposed to the air. And usually by the time you get to this would be up and down, it would be all, the bolt itself would have a little wear and tear on it. Everything looks brand new here. But anyway, we'll take the other one, back them both out, and it would be, the next step is going to be to polish that end. So I want to get a heat gun and a razor and get that sticker off, because I want to clean this up. And cleaning up this oxidation, first of all I want to polish this, of course, but this is all oxidation from where the triple clamps are. Now I can see whoever had this motorcycle had these forks, the triple clamp. In other words, they had the bike lowered by about 1 inch from stock. So that's, this is your variation. This keeps you from going any lower, and this is the setting that you have with an FZR. Well, where they are, they were pretty low. Maybe they were drag racing the bike, who knows, whatever the reason would be to have the bike low like that. I have mine up as high as it'll go for more ground clearance, because I have a big fat behind. Now I'm taking a little bit of prep oil. Even after that sticker's off there's a bunch of chewing gum or whatever that glue is. I want to get that completely off of there. This oxidation that occurs between the iron part and this, I don't know if the buffer is going to take that off, or if I'm going to have to see. Every kind of corrosion on these this is not coming off the way I expected. It's really built up there, in fact. But of course, everyone is just a little bit different, and that's the challenge of this. Now, there's some rust on here. The rust obviously came from the lower triple clamp. I can get some of it off, but I certainly, now see, here's something a lot of people really don't understand. And I didn't understand it for a long time, but I sure understand it now. These are aluminum parts, and they're anodized. And there's several different types of anodizing. You could sit with a buffing wheel and polish this and forever. This will never clean up, because you're going to go through the anodizing before you hit aluminum. So if I want to polish this, I've got to take the anodizing off. I really don't know if I want to do that yet, but I do want to clean off the corrosion. So I've got to come up with a solution. Am I going to just try to get that off with the shoe shine method? Down here, actually this is the part you don't see anyway. The part you see is actually pretty clean. There's a couple of scratches, but there's nothing on this that's terrible. Now, but anytime you want to polish aluminum, the step one is to get rid of the anodizing, because you're not going to polish the anodizing. The anodizing is just not going to, it's not going to happen. You could buff this till the cows come home. The only way it's going to shine is when you go through the anodizing into the aluminum. That's why if you've ever taken like a Honda 750 side cover and you go, or a GS 1100, and you polish it forever, it never gets shiny because it's anodized. If it's not anodized, sometime the Japanese bikes, I don't know about other bikes, they put an epoxy coating. It looks like it's clear. It's epoxy. It's some kind of super stuff you can't even take off with a torch. And I asked John Cafaro about this one time, and he said that's a proprietary thing that these engine companies use on to clear coat engine parts. So I don't know, but I know there's something on here. I'm not going to be able to polish this without thinking about it, but I know I can polish. These end caps will polish right up. I've already polished them on the other bike, on the other set of forks. So of course we're monitoring the weather here, and now just think how great it was that we had that day yesterday, got all that clear on. Wow. The only thing that's going to happen probably later today, if the snow gets any worse, they're going to shut the school and I'm going to have to go get the baby. Now what always works if you need to shovel snow, there's a solution for it. You need a snowblower and another cup of coffee. Okay, the next step is I want to cover this area that we just polished with masking tape and cover the seal up, because I'm going to be working with grinding compound and sandpaper and atomic waste materials. Something that you shouldn't eat, among other things anyway. Anyway, this is just overkill, I guess. I don't want to scratch these. I realize, and we waited, and this is actually true, we waited so long to find these online in nice condition and at a human price that I don't want to jeopardize that. I want to cover the seal. And by the way, I came up with a cute little way of maybe fixing that seal. I'll throw it at the end of the video, in fact, because I don't want to do it until the end of the day. And if it doesn't work, it isn't going to cost me a penny. That's the kind of stuff I like. I like that it doesn't cost me a penny if it doesn't work thing. I hate when you buy something for $1,500 and it doesn't work. By the way, speaking of $1,500, I saw a great thing on YouTube. I mean, I even think about buying this. It looks like a bouncy house. It's an inflatable spray booth. Believe it or not, it's an inflatable spray booth. And you put your car in and spray it. And I was thinking, wow, boy, would that make my life easy. But in a way, it would take the fun out of what we do, because the fun is that it doesn't cost a lot of money to do this stuff. By the way, I always say there's things you can use up your old tape on. This is one of them. That's why I saved the old tape. But I did want to protect this while I'm working with, well, the polisher, the grinder, whatever. Because I really want to, while I have this apart, I wanted to really make this as nice as possible. Alright, so that's all protected now, and we're not going to work on this end. I'm going to work from the tape up, and once I get them both done, the first thing I'm going to do is run this over on a buffing wheel and see how quick it takes, how long it's going to take to clean this up. I assume it's going to clean up very quickly. I guess we're going to find out. And while I'm buffing these end caps out, I wanted to give some thought to exactly how I can get this. This is actually rust, so this came from the triple tree. So you would think, the anodizing being a hard material, that might even come off with Brillo or some 2500. See, this is a stain, but I think some of that rust may come off. And up this end we have some too. But first thing I want to do, I want to polish those end caps. And that's usually pretty straightforward on a buffing wheel. So again, I'm hoping a new camera shows the before and the after a little bit, well, looks a little bit nicer to me anyway. Just a few minutes on the buffing wheel. Now, it'll be interesting to see all of this contamination and oxidation. I'm not sure what's going to take that off. We're going to have to do a little experimenting. But actually, even if we don't get it off, this is hidden by the triple trees. So when I assemble a bike, the triple tree will be right at the top. So you really won't even see that. But this stain down here, that bothers me, that rust is on there. But that's where the lower triple tree is. So maybe I'm just getting a little ahead of myself here. But that, I think, was worth a little bit of time we spent polishing that up. Not sure if you agree. No, it just looks so much better. So much better. And I happen to notice that shooting with the new camera, these closer up scenes, they're more in focus, and of course we'll try to use that to our advantage on future videos. And by the way, this is a Canon PowerShot 190 camera that we're fooling around with. Now, the first most obvious thing to see is if 2500 sandpaper is going to put a dent in this in any way, and I don't know if it is. I won't know until I try it. That the idea here is not to use anything rougher than necessary. So what we'll try is to do this with 2500, and then if that doesn't work, 2000. If that doesn't work, 1500. But eventually we'll find something that'll take that stain off. And hopefully, I don't want to take off any more, because I don't want to take the anodizing off right now anyway. And you can see, if you look real close under the bright lights, the tooling marks from the tool, when they tool these diameters, you can actually look down and see the tooling marks in there. So it's pretty interesting to me. I'm sure this is a high precision thing. Now that took half of it off, but it didn't take the second half. So I'm going to have to think about how I want to do that. So what I did, I upped the ante. I went to 2000 grit just to see if, and you can feel that it's something that's on top of the anodizing. It's not a moon crater, but I just think I got to be careful. In a perfect world, I'll get all of these contaminations off without breaking through the anodizing. That would be choice one, of course. But we don't always get choice one. Yeah, see, that takes more of it off, but boy, that's tenacious stuff, because what it is, it's where metal and steel and aluminum came together, and there's some kind of cross oxidation, or some scientific mind among us would figure it out, but all I know is I don't want it on there. So, the kind of thing, if you're a rocket scientist, you'd say, oh yeah, I know that. Okay, but I see 2000 grit is working a lot better than 2500. So let me try 1500. I'm just trying to get it off with as little grit as possible and leave as few scratches as possible. Now this is very funny to me. The 2000 grit takes the rust stains right off without hurting the anodizing, but that stuff that was in between the triple trees is really tenacious. You can see where it's taking it right off. But this is the part you're going to see, so I'll work that end real good. And and if these don't come out, well, that's going to be tough. But it looks like the parts that matter are going to clean right up. We'll find out. So here's what I did, and I think it worked. Well, we're going to find out in the end. But I thought I'd pass this information. I started out with 2500. Didn't seem to put a dent in it. And then I had some 2000, the Merca, the Rhino Wet. That didn't really put much of a dent in it. Then I did the 1200, and it seemed like it took 70 or 80% of it off, but it didn't take the last little bit. So what I want to do, I'm just going to keep working this until I get that off, because it's a kind of thing, my pride is at stake now. But this, I don't want to go through the anodizing. I don't want to run and put a wire wheel on this or anything, but it seems like if you just stay with this long enough, it does. And now these forks change diameter. Where the tooling marks are, then there's a spot where there's no tooling mark, and up here no tooling mark, because that's where the forks get clamped. So I know you don't see that, but you see in between, and you see here. So I am just going to pay the price here. And as the snow is falling, I'm working this part, and I'm hoping I can get it as good as I can before the day's end. We're definitely putting a lot of time and energy into these forks, and the reason is, there's a second reason. While you have a part off the motorcycle, it's crazy to put the whole bike together and then take it apart at some future time and do this. May as well do it right now. Then you enjoy having that for the whole history of the bike. And I don't trade bikes, so it's easy to figure that out. Now, unfortunately, as I've gone through this, and I'm down to 1,000 grit now, the thing I've come to realize is some of these scratches are so deep that if I sand and get them level, what's going to happen is I'm going to go through the anodizing, and some of the corrosion places, and they're where the fork, the triple tree joins this, the corrosion has gone through the anodizing, but I don't think you're going to see it that much, and if you do see it, there's nothing we can do about it. So after going through all these grits, it turns out the 1000 is the one that does the best job of making the anodizing as clean as it can be. And I guess in reality you could start with 1000 grit. I don't know. We got to clean this up. It is definitely a labor of love doing these legs. Now, one thing we have working in our favor as I finish this up, and this is probably going to be pretty much all I'm going to get done today. By the way, all anodizing, at least the anodizing I'm familiar with aluminum, is all clear, and then they put a dye in it. That's why the R1 forks are gold. And so what happens if we were to do this to gold anodized parts, you would find out right away, oh, the aluminum color is coming through. Well, what this looks like, and I'm not sure of this, I'm just making an educated guess, that what Yamaha did, this is clear anodized, and they never put a dye in it. They wanted it to be this color, like a muted, shiny silver. Well, that's kind of going to be really nice when we're done with it. And thank God they didn't make it gold, or I could never get any of these scratches out. Now, what I did, I got 95% of everything cleaned up that I wanted to. All the rust is gone. And I would say it's safe when I do the second leg to just start with 1000 grit, because there was no downside. This doesn't take enough off, but I probably wouldn't want to go, say, to 800 or 600. 1000 would be it, because I don't want to scratch the anodizing and go through. There's a couple of spots where the triple clamps were, and luckily what's going to happen when I put the bike together, where I'm going to put the triple clamps, it's going to cover that up. It's going to be right under the triple clamps. You're not even going to see it. So, not like we're trying to hide something, but we're trying to maximize what we have here. We got an old girl, and we want to put her best fork leg forward, I guess. But anyway, the problem is, and it's a real problem for me, not for you, of course, is there's snow to shovel today, and that's not the favorite part of my day, that's for sure. So what I'm going to do is let the other fork leg go for tomorrow, and that's the whole point. I don't ever want to rush this stuff. When you rush it, you don't enjoy it. So the fact that we got one done today, I'm real happy about that. So on a part like that, I guess the lesson we've learned is you've got to experiment with various grits. And I'll just, this is all the sandpaper I tested and used and played with and tried to figure out. Another one there. But in the end, I tried using the soft block, didn't do anything. But in the end, it's these parts. And what that is, that's parts where the anodizing. So this was quite an interesting day. The caps, got the legs, got this cleaned up as good as we can. And this is, we're really never going to make it like brand new. We got it 99%. Now the next video, I got to do the other leg. I'll do that tomorrow. For today, this is the end of the day. This is going to require a lot of time because I want to really detail it out. I had thought about painting it, and I'm going to polish it just like I did on the original restoration. But anyway, I had one little thing left to do tonight. Where this fork seal, and I can't do it right now, where this fork seal is, I wanted to take a little bit of the Black Magic gasket sealer and put it in a groove, because these are just cosmetic to me. And when we take the forks apart, of course, we'll put new seals and new dust seals. But I'm not going to get a chance to do that right now. We've had a wonderful day, and I've got snow to shovel, and I'm sure, oh, I have some more very interesting A-team footage to put at the end of this. It runs about 2 minutes. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching and enjoyed a nostalgic video. Is this the moment of truth?
This is the moment of truth, guys.
Oh my God.
This is the choke on.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So the choke was the choke.
I got the choke right here.
Oh, he's got it.
Really? Then never mind.
Yeah, it doesn't work, man.
All right.
Whoa! Whoa! Alright, that's
Say
hello to my little guy.
Hey, you know, that wasn't that loud.
That ain't bad at all.
Hold on. Okay.
Put the most starter food inside.
Yeah, you got no gas.
Gas is not getting there yet, probably.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it sounds good.
Runs
Yeah.
smooth.
Are you impressed, Bob?
I am very.
Tell me the truth.
This is Suzuki, like a.
Bob, you've been overhauled by the Luciano crew. Yay!
They're running up the beach.